I've been doing WordPress stuff for ever, for at least the past decade now, which is crazy to think about. And currently I work as the brand manager for Paid Memberships Pro. And I just wanted to share, since we're talking about Google Analytics, I did a trial project with them, and that was how I got into the company. It was by looking into their Google Analytics, doing some data research, and then suggesting some improvements for them. So let's talk about Google Analytics, and I'm going to frame this in a how you can help your client make more money and how you can make money off of that. So how everyone can win together. So I want to start with, I'm going to get to an agenda. I'm a very, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4 type of presenter. But I do want to start with a quote, because I think it sort of encapsulates a lot of the problems in marketing. There's this great quote by John Wanamaker. Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. And I just feel like that's very true. I used to work, so one of my first, I think it was my second job out of college, I used to work for an advertising agency in Green Bay. And we had this local cell phone provider as a client. And we did TV ads for them. We did radio ads for them. We did billboards. And of course, we did Facebook ads and Google stuff. And our client had, I want to say like it had a few dozen locations around the state. And every time we did a campaign for them, we'd start a campaign in August, let's say, and they would notice that there's an increase in traffic to their site or to their stores, their physical in-person stores. But the problem is they didn't know whether it was the TV, the radio, the billboards, or the Facebook ads. So that is the goal of Google Analytics, is they are trying to solve this problem. They're trying to tell you who is using your website, where they came from, and what they're doing on your site, or what they did on your site. So Google Analytics will help you understand from and what they're doing so that you can do more of it in the future. So one of the things I want to convey in this presentation is that Google Analytics is something you set up now, and then you use it a few months from now or even a few years from now. So it's all about collecting data today so you can use it in the future. So because I'm a nerd, I have an agenda slide. So we've already covered sort of the purpose of what is the goal, the dream use case for Google Analytics. I am going to talk about what Google Analytics can do. And then because Google Analytics 4 is starting to roll out, we have to cover it. So I'm going to cover Google Analytics 4, what you need to know. We're going to talk about what you need to know on sort of the broad sense, as well as just for WordPress sites. I want to talk about some of my favorite features in Google Analytics. And then I'm going to try a live demo. I practiced this yesterday, and my live demo exploded. So, I'm going to try it again, and we're going to hope that it works this time. And there will be time at the end for questions. So, drop them in the chat. There's the QA feature. Let's get started. I do want to get started with, I always like to know who's in the audience and where they're at right now, because that'll help guide the rest of the presentation. So I would, first of all, if anyone's looking to learn something specific, please drop that in the chat. Great, I would love to know. Two, and then the next two are sort of related. Do you already use your accounts? And then two, the second part of that is, do you get paid for that? You train them, or you help them do sales, or something, some way that you get paid for actually looking at their Google Analytics. So please drop that in the chat. I'm going to keep going, but if you can drop them in the chat, it'll help me understand who's listening, so I can make this the best presentation for you. Okay. Let's get started with what Google Analytics can do. And by the way, I'm going to start calling this GA because Google Analytics is just too hard to say over and over again. So what can GA do? And there's 4 main things that GA can do. So first is the audience. So that is, who is visiting my site? Where are they located in the world? What devices are they using to visit my website? And then this is sort of older data, but like, what are their interests? What are they interested in? Behavior. What pages do people visit? In what order do they visit them? How long does the visitor stay on a page? And how do they navigate through the website? One of my favorite features in GA is the ability to look at a funnel So you can say, these are the 3 or 4 steps of my funnel, and GA can show you how many people go through the funnel and what order sometimes they go back and forth. Sometimes you see giant gaps in the funnel. So, in between steps 2 and 3, 80% of the people fall off. There's probably something wrong with the website. So funnels are incredibly important with the behavior. Conversions, which is how much revenue and or leads does my website generate. Revenue being one, leads being a second, and they're kind of linked. And then also, once you have conversions, what traffic sources generate the most leads and sales for me. And then acquisition. So how do visitors reach my site? What marketing channel has the highest return on investment? And of course, is my traffic growing? Okay, so I'm going to take a second to look at the chat here. So it doesn't look like a ton of you are getting paid for this. So my goal here, some of you are looking at your client's GA, Google Analytics, which is great, but it doesn't look like a ton of you are getting paid for it. So we're going to try to fix that after this talk. Okay, let's talk about Google Analytics 4 because it's important, and let me explain why. So first of all, it was announced last year. You can read the announcement post. It's kind of short, doesn't do a ton. But I want to explain the context, why they're changing and upgrading. And upgrading is the wrong word, but why they're changing GA, and then some of the things that they are changing in their model. So it was announced last year. The big thing here is it was driven by privacy, right? So in the last, I would say, 4 years, I think, probably actually since 2016, so probably like the last 5 years, people have really started caring about privacy. What data am I sharing? What websites am I sharing it with? And then what are those websites doing with that data? Just a personal story here. This was about, I want to say this was 2017. I found there are these websites that literally just collect data from hundreds or thousands of other websites, and then they sell it. And then they combine it. So they'll find, oh, here's all the data about Patrick Rolland from these 100 websites. They combine it, and then they sell it to someone who's looking for data about me. So someone who wants to, what can we sell to Patrick? They will find my data and try to sell it to them. What I didn't know, and back in I think it was 2017, you could actually request your data from them. So you don't have to buy it, you just have to request it. And it took them a couple weeks, and they would zip everything up and send it to you, and it's gigabytes. It's huge. And I found out that some social media websites were selling my direct messages to people. And like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And now and ever since that, I've been so much more privacy focused. I just didn't know I didn't imagine that websites would sell my privacy. So the old Google Analytics used cookie-based ways of tracking you, where it tracks you across all these websites, and they're moving away from that. So that is part of the reason why they're moving to GA4 is to not track you personally so much. It's also, at the same time, going to be much better for multiple devices. So it's very common where someone will send me a tweet. I'll check it on my phone. I'll look it up on the website. Cool, great. I'll check it on my desktop later. Maybe you'll even subscribe to their email list so I don't forget. Later at home, that day or the next day, I'll open up my email account, click the link, and then Google Analytics, the old one, the current version, they might think that I'm two different people, whereas the new one is much better at knowing, oh, that's Patrick's phone and this is Patrick's computer. This is the same person. And then just one thing on the model here, and we can go to the next slide, is the new model, the way that it works is it replaces all these old hits and page views, and it replaces them with events. The thing that I want to highlight is that these are two different models. So it's not like old Google Analytics was tracking 1 + 1 and the new one is tracking 2, and you can simply upgrade them by doing some simple math. They're tracking different things, and so they cannot be upgraded. So here's what I'm recommending to everyone. If you're starting a new site, go ahead and start it with Google Analytics 4. And that's what they encourage, by the way, is just start using the new model. You can also start up a new website with both Universal Analytics, the current version, as well as the new version, GA4. And then what most of us have are existing websites with Universal Analytics. You can add Google Analytics 4 to it and have both of them running side by side. And because they're two different models, that's going to be important. And the reason is you want to start tracking data today with Google Analytics 4. So next year or 2 years from now, when you start using Google Analytics 4, because all your data has been moved over there, you have 2 years of data. Like you don't want to start, right? You don't want to start tracking it today and then need to start using it tomorrow because you only have 1 day of data. So that's why I recommend running both at the same time. And that's what a lot of people are recommending. Now, here's my recommendation specific to the WordPress world. So in the WordPress world, so you want to start using GA4 as soon as possible. And you probably want to still use Universal Analytics in the near term. Here's the bonus tip. Sorry, I forgot about these. Your clients, always have your clients set up their own Google Analytics accounts and have them share it with you. You do not want to have that. I don't want to call it, you don't want to have that link to a client forever. It's always better when they can run their own stuff. Great. Here's the slide I thought I was going to. So here's what I recommend for specifically for WordPress. So Monster Insights is one of the biggest analytics plugins in the WordPress world. It's free. They have a, it's freemium, I should say. So they have a paid upgrade, but they have 3 million installs. The problem is they don't yet support GA4. I am still waiting on them. I cannot imagine it'll take them much longer. But I think as soon as Monster Analytics supports, this is, by the way, what I run on almost all of my personal sites. Is Monster Insights. So if you're using this, you just got to wait for them to support GA4 and then run both of them side by side. If you want to start running GA4 right now, there are 2 other plugins. I have them linked. If you have the PDF, that link might work if I did it right. Insert headers and footers you can find on the WordPress.org repository, and SiteKit by Google is also on the WordPress repository. Those will let you start using GA4 now. The one caveat, and the reason I'm not personally using this on my own website right now, is I remember a few years back, I was editing something on a client's website, and we were going back and forth, and we were adjusting something, pixel by pixel, moving stuff around in the CSS. And then I think it was a week or a month later, I'm looking at their analytics. I'm like, wow, there's this huge traffic spike. And I had to dig into it, and I realized all the traffic was coming from Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I lived at the time, and it was coming from my region of Green Bay. And then I realized it was me, and because I refreshed the website 100 times, I was the traffic spike. So things like Monster Insights, where they automatically remove the admin from, they don't send admin visits to Google Analytics, so it doesn't clutter up your data, doesn't muck it up. So that's why I'm not personally using some of these options yet. Okay, so that's kind of it on Google Analytics 4. If you do have questions, obviously drop them in, and I'll try to get to them at the end. The big thing is just the WordPress world. None of the plugins are ready yet, but I'll try to answer your questions when we get to the end. Okay, let's talk about how you can get value, because this is you have to reverse engineer this to get value from Google Analytics, from GA, so you can sell it to your clients. So I have three ways here that you can get three immediate ways you can get value from Google Analytics, and then how you can sell it to your clients. The first one is to measure success with goals. So the first bullet point there is many clients have no idea what part of their business is successful. And I don't say this as like a mean thing, but I've worked with a lot of small businesses, and the vast majority of them are accidentally successful. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being accidentally successful. I've made dozens of WordPress plugins, and I want to say one was really successful, one was moderately successful, and the other 2 dozen didn't do anything. They didn't go anywhere. And there's nothing wrong with that, but most people don't know why they're successful. So if you can have goals to measure success, then you can reverse engineer the path. But it all starts with these goals. So this is a screen universal analytics. And this is, by the way, this is what we will be looking at in the live demo in just a few minutes. So, I have a bunch of signups, and I think it was goal one, you don't see it right here, but in goal 1, it was where I had all of the conversions. So that was for me to know that goal 1 was the most successful one. Okay, so goals are incredibly important. Goals work just similarly in GA4. The setup's a little bit different, but goals still work. Okay, the next thing here is related to goals, but it's a little bit more numeric, and that's just measure the dollars and cents. So you can send e-commerce data to Google Analytics. Now with Monster Insights specifically, this is an add-on, so you have to pay to send the e-commerce data to GA. Lots of e-commerce plugins will have their own free plugin. So if you're using WooCommerce, in the past I've used the free version of Monster Insights to send all the regular data to GA, and then WooCommerce has their own Google Analytics e-commerce data that they send, and you can configure a couple settings to make sure that each one is Monster Insights is only sending this data, and the WooCommerce plugin is only sending the e-commerce data. You can do it that way, or nothing wrong with being lazy, just paying $200 and having one plugin do it for you. Also fantastic. But this e-commerce data is essential. It's similar to goals, right? But a goal is just, it's Boolean. It's yes or no. Yes, I had a goal. No, I didn't. E-commerce is someone bought the $10 package versus someone bought the $100 package. Those are different. So you can get a lot richer data with this, with e-commerce data. Okay, the last one I just wanted to add here. So this will help you with all of the tracking. So if you can start using UTM parameters, it will help you so much with all of the tracking for your once you have the goals, to reverse engineer how people got there. So I will show you in just a few minutes how I had some guest posts. Some worked really well, some didn't. I had some emails, some worked really well, some didn't. I had some affiliates, and I even had some podcasts, which are, it's really hard to track, but I was on a couple podcasts. I gave them special links that all had the UTM parameter podcast. So I was able to track all my podcasts in aggregate. How did that do? I tracked how much time I put into podcasts, and I was able to go, oh, per hour spent, podcast gave me this many visits. So you can do that when you have UTM parameters. If you don't, then Google doesn't know that this was a podcast, and then this was the link from the podcast website. And there's a whole bunch of UTM builders. I only linked one in this slide, just because it was the first one I found on Google. There's a whole bunch of these that help you build it. They give you examples of what you should put in the UTM source, the UTM medium, etc. Okay, so here's what I'll call a magic is once you have the goal. So that's the first two things I talked about, either goals or e-commerce data. Either one will work. You can charge people for the map. So you can charge people for the map. How do you get to the goal? By the way, I'm the type of person, I want to give you the 7 easy steps to publish content consistently, or the 10 steps to set up WooCommerce. I want to give you the exact step-by-step. Google Analytics is this is a tool to help you discover how people get to this goal. Sometimes you only need 1 or 2 key pieces of data. Sometimes it's 20 pieces of data. So each website, each client will have different needs, but however you get to this goal will be valuable to your client. So let's go ahead. Let me make sure. There we go. So the first thing that you can help your clients with is, who is using their websites. Maybe it skews towards one gender or the other. Maybe it skews towards one age group or another. I'll show you in in a couple slides, but the site I used, 2/3 of the audience was one gender, and there was a huge number of people that were 25 to 34. So that's very helpful for me to know for future reference. The next thing, after you sort of know who is visiting your website, is what messaging is working. What do people say? So recently with Paid Memberships Pro, we ran a birthday sale, and we almost skipped sending an email on the last day because in my brain, I was like, well, I sent them an email on last Monday, sent them an email on Wednesday, and I sent one more email to all the people who didn't open it on like Thursday or Friday. So I don't need to send them another email. And then I said, no, you should, what, it's the best practice. Let's go ahead and send the email on the last day. It may be a little bit annoying, but we're just going to do it and just to make sure it works. And guess what the analytics told us? Over 25% of the sales, the sale was 9 days long, over 25% of the sales came from that last day. So that, like, what messages are people reading is very important. And then I noticed after looking at last year's data and the 2 years before that, based on all the stuff I did this year, this exact same sale grew 34%. That's very easy to sell to your clients in the future. Hey, last year you did a birthday sale on your own. This year you brought in me. I helped you with your birthday sale, and we increased sales by 34%. If you want that again, here's my price. Let's see. Okay, so there's other stuff here. What are people checking out on your websites? How many pieces of content does someone have to see before they purchase? One of the things that I wanted to bring up here is, do people need to read a specific piece of content before purchasing? So a few years ago, I used to work at WooCommerce, and one of the things we realized is that a huge number of people, over 50% of people, would read the documentation for the WooCommerce add-ons before they purchased them. So guess what we did? We made it incredibly easy for you to navigate to the docs. You said, oh, wow, here's this add-on I want. Let's make sure to go to the docs. And then a little while after that, we're like, oh, we should also have an easy button to go back to the sale page to actually buy it. So then we added a back button back there. You can also do site customizations when you know how people are navigating through the website. And And then just the last thing here is you can have progressive goals. So sometimes you can have goal 1 is a free email sign up. And then goal 2 is you've read these 10 blog posts, or you've read this important, or you filled out a contact form. You can have progressive goals and see how people move between the goals. And it just gives you more data to build this treasure map. Okay, let's see. One other thing I just wanted to bring up is you can also charge for automation. I don't think this is where most people make a ton of money, but clients are generally very happy to have you help them set up automation. Businesses, and the other thing here is, I don't know if this is anyone else's experience, businesses love PDFs. If I could say, I bet I could offer someone the alphabet in a PDF and they would buy it from me for $10. I don't know why, but businesses love PDFs. So, you can share reports with people. So if you create a report in Google Analytics, you can easily share it with anyone in that company by emailing it to them. I highlighted the frequency box here. You can send it daily, weekly, quarterly, and even monthly, and of course, yearly. So there's a ton of options. And, PDF is the default option here, but you can also send CSV and Excel. So there's a lot of cool automation utility that you can sell in addition to your marketing prowess. So if I had to, make a horrible pie chart that drew this for you, it would look something like this. It's I will take 0 criticisms on the pie chart. I know it looks ugly. Anyways, you can probably charge a little bit for automation utility, maybe training, and then I would say 75% of what you should be charging for is that treasure map. Okay, so we're gonna do a demo, and we're gonna look at a site, and I'm a big fan of showing people real data. I've created Google GA courses before, and we have to blur out everything because it's a specific client's data, and I can't obviously give a webinar on a specific client's data. So lucky for you, I'm very happy to share my own data. I ran this event called Liftoff Summit with Bob WP a few years ago. It was the precursor to WooSesh, which I eventually launched a year or so later. And the thing that's just important for everyone to know, just to give you a little bit of context, is this was an online event. It was free to watch. And if you want the recordings, or if you want the bonus videos, so each speaker had one free talk and then there was a bonus talk, then you had to pay for the all access pass. I don't remember. I think it was like $97 or something. So that's just the context of this website called the Liftoff Summit, which was an online event we ran. Now, just to make sure that everyone is still awake and paying attention, I do have a question I'd like everyone to make a guess if you want. So I used a bunch of marketing channels I threw everything at the wall with this event. So I'm curious what you think is the best. So here's your options. Sorry, I didn't write this down. Referral, meaning another website. Affiliates traffic, which, by the way, all the speakers were affiliates. Podcasts, which I think I only did 2 or 3. Social media, so that's obviously just sharing tweets and Facebook posts. Organic SEO. Guest posts, that's me writing stuff for other websites that's unrelated, or that's separate from referrals, right? So it's a specific guest post. I gave them a UTM parameter. And the last one is like an email. So I have a small email list. So I think that's 7 options here. So go ahead and drop it in the chat. I'll check it in a few minutes. But I would love to know if you think it's referral traffic, affiliates, podcasting, social media, organic SEO, guest posts, or email. All right, let's go ahead. I just want to make sure. So I think everyone can see this. This is my Google Analytics account. You can see the event was in 2017. So you can see here traffic. I'm pretty sure this was the 2 events leading up to the event, and this is when the actual event was. So let's go ahead and what I want to do here is I want to build the treasure map with you. So we're going to, in just a second, look at e-commerce data because I like to go backwards, but I like to start with the audience just because I like to know where are people coming from. So let's start with the audience, and we're going to go to audience geolocation. So this will give us, the map of the world. And this is, I think, just a great place to start of who in the world is even at this event. So let's scroll, there's a pretty map here. But really, we can see most of the data is right here. So we can see the United States, Canada, and the UK are in the top 3. Australia, Germany, India, South Africa, Netherlands, Greece, and Brazil. Now, one just ballpark figure for you is the typical conversion rate on a website is 1 to 2%. So you can sort of ballpark it and go, we'll probably get 10 sales from the US, probably get a little bit less than 1 sale from Canada, 3/4 of a sale from the UK, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, that is a huge ballpark, 1 to 2%. The e-commerce conversion rate for this website was a little higher, I believe. But it gives you an idea of like, how much effort should I put into Brazil, right? Should I get everything translated into Portuguese? That's 0.1 of a sale. Probably not. So I like just thinking about where are people coming from to start with. I think it's very helpful. I think the next area that's just really useful to take a look at, and keep in mind, this is 2017 data, is the breakdown between desktop, mobile, and tablet. And let me see if I can, let's look at a pie chart. I think that'll make more sense. There we go. So we can see the desktop, mobile, and tablet of the traffic. Now, this does include, here, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do some magic here. So I'm pretty sure the event started on, Monday. So we're going to go to June 18th here. So we're going to look back into just when people were hearing about the event instead of when people were watching the event. It actually doesn't look that different. Anyways, so I thought the numbers would be a little different, but they're not. So mobile is only about 30%. Keep in mind, this is 4 years ago. Tablets, what's that, 5 and a bit percent, and desktop is 2/3 of traffic. One of the things to think about, and we can break this down a little bit later, is where are people finding you and what device are they on? Because at least, 30% of my traffic is coming from mobile devices, and 2/3 is coming from desktop. So it still needs to look really good on mobile. And I would bet today this would be almost reverse. Maybe not if you're watching a webinar all day. Like I bet when you're watching the event, a good number of people would still watch it on their desktop. But I will raise my hand and say I absolutely watched there's a WordFest a week or two ago, and I watched that, I think I watched my tablet. I watched on my tablet. So I think, people's behavior is changing. So keep an eye on this. And as soon as you see that mobile and tablet grow into over 50%, that should probably be where your focus is, and desktop should be the ancillary experience. If you have more time, work on the desktop, but really it should be focusing on mobile tablet when it gets above 50%. Let me extend this again, June 30th. So I think that's a helpful place. And now let's go back. Let's start looking through. So we're going to go to conversions, and we can either go to goals or e-commerce. Both of these are valuable. So if I go to goals, you'll see I had 4 goals here. Oh boy, where are they? You can't see that I have 4 goals here. Why? Show me all the goal. Nope. Nope. Okay. Well, if I go up here, you can see I have 4 goals. So you can see goal 1 is sign up. Now, here's one of the other things. It is always better for you to set up goals that you think you'll need and you don't end up needing, rather than do things that you should have measured, but you didn't. So I can see here that, I thought these other lead magnets, goal 2, 3, and 4 would be great. Guess who was wrong there? I was wrong. But this is great for me because if I ever run this event again, now I know I just need to focus on goal 1, just people to sign up. Goal 2, 3, 4, I'll probably track it, but I'm not going to care too much about it. So goals is really important. And did I actually track e-commerce data? Great, I did. So I tracked it. I did look into e-commerce data here, and if you have different products, you can see them there. It looks like it's pulling in something from a different website, which looks like, I broke something there. And I did have a test product. I'm a big fan of, I will sell a test product on my website. So here's what's cool. Let's go back to goals. And actually we're going to see, how did people find us? So we're going to go to behavior, site content, and content drill down. Cool. So one of my other ones, I'm not going to spend too much time on it today because it doesn't quite this is mostly a one-page website. One of my favorite reports, assuming you don't have a one-page website like this event, is the site content landing pages. This tells you what is the first website people see, what is the first page people see on your site when they visit it. Again, it's a one-page website with some sort of hidden pages for once you've been registered, so it's not super useful in this case. But landing pages is an incredibly useful report. Okay, so content drill down is the one I want to show you. And we can see a couple things, by the way, that helps us with the product. So we can see Liftoff Summit. We can see this is the thank you page. One of the things I forgot to mention is one of the ways to help you track goals is to always have a separate page. So if I have a subscribe to our newsletter page, or let's just call it newsletter page. So liftoffsummit.com/newsletter, you should always have a liftoffsummit.com/newsletter thank you or thanks. And that should be your goal page. It just makes it incredibly easy to track. If you're using Ajax contact forms, it's going to take you an extra hour to set up in GA, and I'm lazy. I don't want to spend an extra hour. So that's always what I recommend. So if we look at 5 through 10 here, we can see basically what are the top sessions. So, Chris Lemma, Paul Jarvis, Rebecca Gill, my own, which I think might have been the keynote. I don't remember. Boy, this was 4 years ago. I don't remember giving a talk at my own conference, but apparently I did. Nicole Kohler and Megan Adams. So, and, maybe it was their topics or maybe it was their notoriety. But these were the top speakers. So if I wanted to, let's say next year, if I wanted to run this event again, I might reach out to the top 3 speakers and invite them back, and then get a whole bunch of new speakers to try new ideas. But this will give me an idea on what people were doing. Now, I did want to show you one of the most important tools here is segments. So segments. So right now we're looking at all users, which is neat. That's always a good place to start. But you really want to start, and let's keep all users. But let's go down to either made a purchase, or I want to say, oh no, the one I wanted to look at was single sessions. Yes, single session users. And then we're going to go back to a different page for a second. We're going to go back to conversions and goals. Brilliant. So one of the things that I thought was really cool is, of all the people who are completing goals, 52% of them are single session users. That means that just over half of the people who came to my site didn't need to come back a second time. They didn't need to review it again a few hours later. They didn't need to review again the next day. They just signed up instantly. What is this? Liftoff Summit? It's free, and maybe I have to pay later for a recording? Great, I'm in. This tells me that next year, I don't need to invest a ton of money in getting people to come back to the website. It's really all about giving them one exposure to the website. This, by the way, is for most websites, this is pretty uncommon. So for most websites, you're going to see that single session users that convert, that's not like a newsletter subscription, is going to be, I don't know, 5-10%, or maybe even 1 or 2% if it's e-commerce stuff. So this is really helpful to understand how many times did people come to my site before they converted. In this case, 52% of people only needed the one session. So that's fantastic. Okay, so everyone put in their guesses. This is one of my favorite things. We're going to go to acquisition, overview. I'm gonna be sneaky here. Sorry, I'm gonna hide the answers for just a second. Let me go look through the chat here. All right, I see affiliates, social media, email, referral. All right, so we got a couple guesses. Affiliate, social media, email, referral. Great. Now we're going to go back to acquisition, overview, and I'm going to get rid of single session users. That's not helpful for us right now. But let's go ahead and add a segment of, I want to say, converters. I hope that's set up right. Yep, okay. Converters, great. People who made a conversion of some sort. And we could change this. So if we wanted to be, we can change it to made a purchase. Let's do that. I just want to make sure that works. 2%. That sounds right. I would want to double check this to make sure that it's just to make sure it's all e-commerce data. Yep, yeah, that's the right revenue. Okay, great. So here we go. Top channels, first of all, of just all users, and then by made a purchase. Oh, this is not quite useful because they probably came from my email. We'll come back to that. Okay, so first of all, direct. Direct means that either direct is what I call Google Analytics GA's junk drawer. You know how we all have that that drawer in the house. It's like a screwdriver, a rubber band, Band-Aids, and batteries. That's what the direct channel is for Google Analytics. So now, to be fair, some people are manually typing in your URL. That is a percentage of it, but it's also almost everything else. So besides direct, who guessed social? Shannon, if you're in Denver, stop by. I'll give you a high five. You are the winner for social. Was surprisingly the top channel here, with what, 27% of all the users arriving from social. That's fantastic. Shannon, oh, you're in Minneapolis. Great. if I come back for WordCamp Minneapolis, we'll do it. We'll do a high five. Okay, the next, oops, I just minimized the sidebar there. There we go. The next one is referrals, which I think was 2 people's. Great. And then who said other? Oh, so there's an other affiliates. And email was surprisingly ineffective. So Lisa, you guessed email. If I had a really active email list, I'm sure email is one of the best marketing channels for people. But if you only market, your email list, I've been collecting emails for years. It's a cold list. This makes sense, but it really didn't do very well. Now let's go a little bit. Let me change this to. We're going to get rid of made a purchase, and we're going to change it to someone who converted, because that'll also include the people who actually signed up, as opposed to the people who visited the site and then didn't sign up. And still, social is still the largest. Referrals doing better. Affiliates is doing better, and email is doing fine. But direct is actually doing a lot less worse. So for people who converted, they came from places that I recognize. Okay, let's go into one of my other favorite reports. I didn't write this down. Where did I want to go? I wanted to go to Medium. So if everyone remembers, I talked about you really want to track the different mediums. So you want to use UTM parameters. And if you notice, UTM is, when you look at just the mediums, that's a specific thing in the UTM. It's different here, right? So now we have referral, affiliate, podcast, social, organic, email, guest posting, Bonjoro, which is a cool way to say hi to the people, and a couple other ones. And let's scroll down a little bit here, right, to get into some of the. So if we look at the conversion rates, so that's direct, referrals doing decent, organic is actually doing all right in terms of behavior. Podcasting is actually doing surprisingly well. Affiliates did pretty good, and referral is doing great. Now, I spent a ton of time guest posting last year. Not last year. When I ran this event, I think I did 4 guest posts, and each one had to be negotiated. And how long does it have to be? And what is your style guide? And it has to be submitted 2 weeks in advance. Oh my God, I did so much work. And it brought me 31 visitors. Do you know what I'm not going to do again next year? Guest posts. So I was able to track this stuff. And now I immediately know guest posts not worth doing. Email is probably worth doing, but you just can't use a cold email list. So that needs to be greatly improved. Organic is not surprising, right? This is the first year I ran an event. The first and only year I ever ran this event. And there's a lot of useful stuff here. Okay, let me just scroll down. Great. So I think that's just about it. Let me go back here. And I just wanted to reiterate, people in the beginning said that they didn't make a lot of money from Google Analytics. Maybe when we worked with this advertising agency in Green Bay, this was ages ago, we didn't really charge for Google Analytics. I always got access to it, and then that would help me know what pages were the most useful, the pages that we need to revamp the first, but we didn't really use it. And I think there's a lot of things you can do for your clients. So setup. There's nothing wrong with just setting it up and making sure the reports are being sent to the right people. There's nothing wrong with, training people to use their GA is great. And I also think when you sell training, people ask you less questions, right? When you just say, here, I set up Google Analytics for you, they ask you 5,000 questions, where if you say, and if you want, there's a 1-hour training, I can send you a 1-hour training video, or you can come in for $200 and I'll give you an in-person training. They'll figure it out themselves. The best thing here is setup and that treasure map, that reverse engineering, how people get from point A to point B to point C to point D to finally check out is just incredibly valuable. And something I didn't touch on, I thought I was going to touch on it when I was writing this outline, and then as I was getting into it, there's just so much other content that I wanted to cover, is there are these things called custom dimensions. And so you can send extra data to Google Analytics. One of them that I have done in the past is you can send, so if you're an e-commerce website or if you're e-commerce clients, you can send what's called the cost of COGS data, the cost of goods sold. You can send cost of goods data into GA, and then it takes a lot of effort, and you can use these things called calculations in GA to then say, take all my revenue, subtract the cost of goods, and then enhanced e-commerce, which is just a toggle right now. You just turn it on in your settings. You can also subtract discounts and any other coupons they used. And then you can actually see how good your sales are compared to a regular sales day, because it gets rid of it takes out the cost of goods sold and it takes out sales data, and you can sort of compare profit, not just revenue, which is magical. So custom dimensions is amazing, but takes forever to set up and is very easy to break. And your clients need to have data sent to GA in just the right way, and you probably want to send it through the back end or upload it manually. It's the whole thing. Okay. I think now is a great time for questions. There's an email. Feel free to send an email about whatever. Hit me up on Twitter. I love bothering people on Twitter. So, get on there. And I think that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The first question that we have had come in more than once was, where can one go for GA 101? Like, they don't know anything about Google Analytics. What is a good resource for starting their Google Analytics journey?
Good question. And I will answer this in two ways. So the first answer is cheating, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. I think the first thing is you do not need to know how to use Google Analytics to set it up. You can literally, like, if you want to figure out, what I'm trying to say here is, do not wait to take a course to set up Google Analytics. Setting it up is very easy, and you can start collecting data today. So let's say you take a nice course on GA a month from now or 2 months from now, you'll magically have 2 months of data that you can go, oh, wow, this is I didn't know that was the top content. The top content for my personal blog, which I've been running for years, is something about MAMP, which I never talk about. It just happened to be the right topic at the right time. It got linked to. It gets hundreds of visits every month. And you would never guess that, but it just happened to be the right post. And, now that I know that, I can change my marketing strategy, blah, 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 blah. The point here, always just please set up GA immediately. Set it up right now. I will not be offended if someone needs to set it up right now and they don't ask a question. Okay, to actually answer the question, one of my side gigs is I create courses on LinkedIn Learning. And the reason I really recommend it is most libraries in the US, I have no idea about outside the US, but I at least know in most public libraries in the US, they already have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning, formerly lynda.com. And so if you see something on your library's website about it, you can usually get a library card and get an online login. You don't even have to go to the library to use it. And they have really well-produced courses. The thing, I've also made courses there. The thing that's really great about it is they're very succinct. That when I speak, there's 100 ums and ahs, and we spend hours in post getting rid of all the ums and ahs, and it's just a very short 5-minute video on one specific topic in GA, and they're organized very well. So I would probably recommend that. And then just to be even more specific, there's usually essential training, which are like 4 to 6 hours. Ain't nobody got time for that. Try to find one of the learning courses, which is like 1 hour, here's what you need to know. And, you can watch the essential training later. Oh, and I see someone in the chat said most Canadian libraries have it as well. Brilliant. Yeah. So lynda.com, LinkedIn Learning I really recommend it. I also make courses for that, so I feel a little conflicted, but I think it's a great resource.
I do like the way LinkedIn Learning breaks everything down into 3 to 5 minute videos. So it's very consumable on free time. It's not like the other place that I go to learn things is like Coursera.com, because you can audit the classes for free on Coursera. So you don't have to pay the $49 or $59 or whatever it is. But at the same time, those are like 40-minute long, and you're doing module after module because it's a college class. So LinkedIn Learning is a lot easier to consume, I feel like. So
I agree. And just to be extra nerdy here, I think they have an app and you can download stuff. So if you're ever on an airplane, I'm too cheap to pay for airplane Wi-Fi. I will just download everything ahead of time. You can download it all to your device and watch it there. No excuses for not learning.
Why not? Why not, right? Let's see what other questions we have. When you're configuring Google Analytics for clients, how do you progress the client's understanding as well? And do you cover some things on an intro basis for them? Do you save some for later? Like, how do you approach the client relationship side of Google Analytics for clients?
Good question. Let me start with, there's a lot of clients who kind of don't care. There's a lot of people who are, oh, great, you're collecting data? Good. A lot of people are just busy running the business. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's why they hire people like all the people watching, right? That's why they hire you, is because they're busy doing their business, which is selling board games or teacups or whatever, and they don't have time to learn Google Analytics. I don't think there's anything wrong there's a lot of clients who don't want to learn anything, and that's totally fine, and you can just handle it all. I think one of the ways I like to bring it up is sort of, I don't want to say in passing, but in an as needed basis. So when a client says, hey, we really want to update these 3 pages, that's a great time for you to go, very happy to update these pages. It'll cost this much. Or I took a look at your Google Analytics, include a screenshot, include a link, and then say, but these are actually your top 3 pages. And if you were to spend, it would be my recommendation that you would update these 3 pages first, and then we can save these 3 pages for a future iteration for next month or for the next month's retainer or whatever. That's probably the way to do it, is to use it in a let me help you get more value out of your dollars. That's the best. It's very easy to be like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. These are the first 3. No, I'm trying to help you. These are if you want, I will gladly update these 3 pages. I will always take your money. But if you want to maximize your dollars, here's what I recommend. And that includes, don't actually think they'll actually click it, because they won't, and they're going to forget their login, and they're going to email you about their password, and then they think that you can call Google anytime you want and have them get logged in, which just happens all the time. No, just include a screenshot and a link and get started that way. So I think I bring it up on an as needed basis, because I don't think most clients care that much about it. I think this changes when you have online clients. So a lot of the, especially when I worked at this ad agency, they were people who sold to people in the local area. They had physical storefronts, but as soon as 95% of your business is online, that's probably when people care a little bit more. And then it's probably worth setting up trainings just to make sure that they get it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that I've worked at a few different agencies over the years, and one of them hyper-focused on self-storage facilities.
Yep.
And so that was a very different animal from a GA perspective
Yes.
than anything else, because most of the facilities we worked with didn't even have a way to do online booking. So, selling them on GA services wasn't really a thing, but we were able to help them with their SEO or point things out or upsell them to do SEO services, because we were able to say, I looked at this thing that I installed for you for free when we built the site, because we knew you would need it, even though you didn't understand that you needed it, type of a conversation. So.
Exactly. Yes. It's a value add. Yep. Love it.
Yep. So coming from, I have a long history in Google Analytics. How do you see GA4 and this shift happening over time, especially with people who do love their analytics? From, I do have some clients that I've had over the years that are married to their analytics.
Yep.
Do you see, with some of these privacy inactions and all of these types of things, how do you see that affecting the business of analytics?
Well, first of all, I think it's good. So I don't think I mentioned this in my talk. I had it written down as a thing I might want to talk about. But going back to the part of the reason the GA is doing are becoming a very privacy-focused world. And the 2 terms that I didn't bring up is, and there are these terms called, hold on. Oh man, I need to go back to the right slide so I have my notes. I'm going to find it. Nope. I don't have my talk memorized, unfortunately. Nope, I have it written down somewhere. So I know one of the words is surveillance capitalism. That's just like the mean word that people use to describe business models like Facebook and Google, right? And we live in the advertising industrial complex. That was the other one. So I think from from the perspective of people becoming very privacy focused, I think that's huge for Google Analytics 4. I think that's very important. I think it's good that we are more privacy focused than we ever were before. I'm very sad that they're getting rid of the old data. Right, and they're not getting rid of it. It's going to exist, or at least they're not getting rid of it yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they keep that for 5 to 10 years. Like, I would not be surprised if they keep it there for 5 to 10 years, maybe longer, right? Because it's historical data. Like, you want to remember when you launched your website, how many people you had on that first day. I like seeing charts go up and to the right? And sometimes it's nice to be like, sometimes you get lost in the grind of like, God, is anything I'm doing actually working? And then you like zoom out and you look at like 2 years of growth and you go, oh, it is working. I just don't see it day to day, week to week. I'm very sad about the data being lost, but I think that's why you really want to set up Universal Analytics, keep it set up, and currently install GA4. Maybe you keep using Universal Analytics for 2-3 years. I don't know. And then finally, after you have enough data, then you switch over to Universal Analytics. GA4.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that right out of the gate, GA4 felt very lacking.
Yes.
And so, it was one of those things where you first took a look at it and you're like,
Yep.
There's nothing in here.
Yep.
So I definitely understand the feeling, especially from, when you've built your business on this, or you've helped your clients build their business on understanding their data, and you've pushed the data so hard, and
Yep.
then all of a sudden it's like, now we're going to be bringing it back a little bit. I don't think there's anything bad about that. I think it's just a matter of helping, again, guide and steer and direct. How do you feel about agencies becoming more of a partner than just, I built the site and handed it over? Like, what's your take on that?
I always want. I'm a big fan of incentives. If you ever want to get me talking, start talking to me at economics and incentives, because it's one of my favorite topics in the world. Because I think aligning incentives is just incredibly important. So if you can ever align your incentives with your client, for example. So let's say we could say, hey, this marketing campaign will cost you $5,000, or this marketing campaign can either A, cost you $10,000, or it'll cost you $5,000 and be an extra dollar per lead generated. You can do stuff like that because then you're incentivized. And if the client chooses that, then you're incentivized to get as many leads for them as possible. It's literally increasing your revenue. I did know some e-commerce stores that have done that in the past, where they've said they don't want to pay a developer. And a developer friend of mine did it for like $500, like bare bones. At least I get a couple hundred, and gets like 5% of e-commerce transactions. If you're selling digital products, that's probably easy. If you're selling physical products, the margins are just not there. So it's very hard for most physical product companies to do that. But if you ever have the opportunity to align incentives, magic. So I'm a big fan of becoming partners in some way.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for being here today. I know we're kicking off a whole new marketing campaign month. Next week, we will have our Skyverge team taking over for us again. I love it when we get to have them come on. But the week after that, we have SEO. And Nikki Ong will be with us, and she will be talking about how to add SEO as a service, whether or not you know SEO. So that's going to be an interesting one that you're definitely going to want to be here for. Again, Sandy, I'm signing off, and I will see you guys same place next week.